Hello, I'm Dominique Broomfield, a former educator. Been in education, I would say, almost 20 years, from being a teacher to an instructional coach to a district math specialist and now a consultant. I really have enjoyed my time supporting students and teachers, and I really just enjoy guided math instruction. I know it's highly effective in ensuring that all of our students are growing. So, with that, I would like to talk to you today about three different implementation options that are typically used in elementary math classrooms where students are being supported with growing in their math understanding. So, the first one is station rotation, typically saw in seen in a kinder through second grade classroom. I would say that I think it's highly effective in kinder and in first grade classrooms, and I would say the first semester in second grade classrooms, especially if the teacher is self-contained, as you would expect for the lower grades. It's highly important that the teacher is able to juggle both the rigor of math instruction and reading instruction. And so typically, reading groups don't change as often as math groups should. And so, a downside to K2 stations and rotations is sometimes that maybe they're not changing as often, and maybe the data is not being tracked as often to ensure students are maximized in their growth potential. And so I think that we do it a lot in the upper grades, but it's also important in the lower grades to ensure numeracy is at the highest level so that students don't struggle when they go to third through fifth grade. And so station rotations, typically in the lower grades, they have more fixed groups, more fixed rotations and systems, as students are really just exploring the numbers. They're exploring lots of hands on experiences. And so sometimes their stations might be a little bit more fixed. But I would caution that it's important that we also give some variety in the lower grades as well. Now, the gradual release option, which is my favorite, I think this one is very important in that it allows for a teacher who needs to grow students who may have various levels of students in his or her class. It allows them to really have that flexibility to pull more students or to spend more time with students who need more one on one, and to also give independence and to structure the classroom in a way that students who are ready for a faster pacing or who are ready for extension or enrichment activity have that opportunity, while the students who need a little bit more time have that additional time. So I think this one is definitely a winner, not only because my students grew at the peak of my career, 2 years growth in a year, but also because I've seen it be very helpful at a campus level with several teachers utilizing it, and also definitely at a district level as well. Now, the must do, may do choice board, I feel like a combination of this one and the gradual release is really the way to go. I would say typically that's what I had in my classroom, was a combination of both of these, because you do want to give students choice. And really, a lot of the motivation to keep working comes from having choice and feeling as though you are in control of this growing process. And so it's so important that we give our students choice. Even if we can't just give them 100%, they need to feel that ownership in their learning. Now, if you are a teacher who has a classroom where maybe most of the kids are on level and you have more students on the upper end than you do on the lower end of understanding, you may find that you have more must do, may do choice board options than a teacher who really needs to spend more time with the gradual release model. Now, even in that case, you want to ensure that you're strategic about how you build your stations. You want to be strategic about what standards are being covered in your games or game centers or math stations or math centers, whatever you choose to call them. You want to make sure that you're spending the time to be strategic about what stations or centers you have available to students, and that you rotate those out. And so for me, I love to rotate the actual activities, the tasks that students would do, as opposed to rotating kids from group to group. For me, that was not good for my teaching style. I didn't like for students necessarily to have to move from group to group to group. I preferred students to move as partners to partner work on the floor or right in the hall or in the corner or at my table. Like, I preferred them to work in partners. And so for me, that was very effective. And then the choice board. So for me, the kids, one kid would go to their choice station or their choice activity, and they would have a choice as to maybe two or three places that they could work. And if they finished first, they were able to pick that space that they wanted to work because it was available. And then they would work with another person who was done, and then that would be taken off, the list of tasks to do. And so that was kind of my way of moving kids. It was gradual release and choice combined. So I think you can really have fun with this. You can be as strategic as you want. I think the one of the most important things to remember is that it's very important to be strategic about what standards you cover in the stations and how you're utilizing that while you're also utilizing small group instruction. So for myself, I often use small group instruction to address the deficits that I was seeing with the current standard, and then my students who were well below level, ensuring that I scaffold during that time with the current learning. And I would a lot of times use my number talk, my numeracy, my fluency, whatever that you would call that in your district, first thing in the morning, first thing in the class. I would utilize that time to address one standard. It could be reviewing a prior standard, or it could be reinforcing, or even initiating, like, okay, this is what's coming, getting kids introduced to a new standard. So I really, really enjoyed using that as like a review or intro, the reviews, and then utilizing the stations as a way to reinforce, interleave practice that happened in the beginning of the year, or practice that happened in the prior grade that I need to really get kids started before we move into that next layer that's on grade level. So, utilizing stations strategically, it's a game changer. We have to be strategic about how we use stations, because once you do, you really can like double your effort. It's not about you just standing there and saying, I taught them this. I don't know why they don't understand it. It's also about, did we give them enough opportunities to practice this standard? And so being very strategic about what games you use, not always like how flashy they are, how colorful they are, how loud and busy they are, those games, but what type of conversations can kids have? Will they be motivated to play this game against a partner? Will they enjoy coloring the space to show that they got a point? Like, what are some small ways that the students can be engaged and can interact at the station that will allow them to practice the actual skill that you need to see them practice? And so I sometimes feel like teachers get overwhelmed when they think about stations, but I think if you approach them from the standpoint of, what am I trying to give kids more time to practice? And how can I ensure that they're utilizing this time to apply that understanding? And how can I ensure that they're engaged? If you're thinking through those things, then stations will be one of your best tools to ensure your kids grow. Sometimes I would literally focus fractions, or I would say data or geometry, after I would teach it really well, then I would spend a lot of time um, reinforcing it in stations. And so that really helped me to grow students. If you need support with this, or if you would like to talk about it in the comments, or if you're looking for additional resources, please feel free to check out the link that I have here for you and or reach out. All right. Thanks.